Oh, Ben, the joys of doing remotes. But Ben Baby, ESPN.com, joins us now. He covers the Cincinnati Bengals. Ben, I know you missed Texas terribly, but you've been doing a great job of covering the Bengals. What's this year been like covering a meteoric rise from terrible to Super Bowl?
Yeah, it's been pretty incredible to watch. The Bengals, a couple years ago when I first got here from Texas, were the worst team in the NFL. And then over the last couple seasons, they've really done a good job of overhauling things, really, gutted out the roster and started rebuilding from the ground up, starting with that first overall pick in Joe Burrow. And we've seen him really transform this team and this offense in particular. And in Zach Taylor's third season, they're playing for the biggest game, the biggest trophy that we have to offer in American sports. It's truly phenomenal to watch. And, even when you go back at the beginning of December, it's not something I thought was achievable for this team, but then they went on a big run at the end of the season, beat Kansas City not once, but then twice. So right now, it's just wild. You see the buzz in the city, and I think that people are very excited in town about what's about to happen.
Ben, what's it been like to just watch the rise of Joe Burrow? I mean, you mentioned him there and how special he is, but I mean, this story's, even when you talk about how special it is, it's still ridiculous to kind of try and wrap your heads around. I mean, what sense have you got? You've been around a lot of great players and special types, but what do you get when you're around Joe Burrow?
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually there, covered his first start at LSU. I was with the Dallas Morning News at the time, and he was, I was there when they played Miami inside AT&T Stadium, was there for his final loss in college when they lost to A&M at Kyle Field in 2018. And from then on out, it's just been wild to see him go from a potential mid-round pick to the number one overall pick. And now here in Cincinnati, a guy who has really given the team a lot of confidence. He's a guy that they fully believe can be a franchise quarterback. That's why they picked him with the first overall pick. And he's definitely proven to be that for them. You definitely see the impact he has, not just on the field, but in the locker room as well. A guy who's been a very big leader, especially by example, and has demanded a level of excellence from everyone around him. And I think all those things are big reasons why Cincinnati is a game away from hosting the Lombardi.
Ben Baby again with us, ESPN.com, covers the Bengals. Ben, thanks for your time. David Smoke with you. What has this meant to the city of Cincinnati?
Yeah, this has been pretty big. This is a team and a city that hasn't been able to experience a playoff win since January 1991, making only its third Super Bowl appearance. And, for 3 decades, there was just a lack of success at the levels that matter. They had won division titles, they had made the playoffs, but ultimately they had nothing to show for any of that. And this year you could definitely feel whenever they were able to hang on and beat the Raiders in the wild card game that, maybe a big burden had been lifted off their shoulders. But what was fascinating is even after that win, the Bengals players said, we want more than just one playoff win. And over time, you've seen them kind of change the narrative internally about, we're lucky to be here, lucky to make this run. And, we're a good team. We're the AFC North champions. And, we're out here to mean business. And, you've seen, I know y'all are down in Waco, and Clay Johnston, had a big play for them in the game against, Tennessee. He's been a guy who has been a reserve linebacker throughout the season. And, he came up, and I believe his only snap of a defensive snap of consequence so far this season, he stopped Derrick Henry on a 2-point conversion, and that ended up being a big play. So, this whole team is really bought into not having any egos, everybody being able to step up when they need to. Trent Taylor, another guy, a practice squad wide receiver, caught a 2-point pass in the game against Kansas City. So, I think that there's a lot of excitement about this group, and this is a very likable team, not just in the city, but you're starting to see that nationally as well.
Ben, you mentioned Joe Burrow, and he's the story, but really they've kind of nailed the draft a little bit over the last couple of years. With T. Higgins a couple years ago, I mean, Jamar Chase was maybe one of the best draft picks of all time, not a quarterback, to make this offense very viable and piece it together with free agents. What was the shift in Mike Brown? Was it just hitting on Joe Burrow or anything? Because he is – and I've tried to say this in the nicest way possible, but not the most engaged guy when it comes to, being an aggressive owner or things like that, comparatively to a guy like Jerry Jones or Arthur Blank or someone. He's much more in the background.
Yeah, I think we started to see that shift actually before Joe Burrow was drafted. You saw that in the free agency in 2020 whenever they got DJ Reader, who was previously with the Texans, signed Trey Waynes, a cornerback from Minnesota. That one hasn't really worked out, but it still signaled a shift. And we've seen other shifts as well. not just, in the way that they operate as a franchise and in their spending habits, but also some other things that matter in fan engagement. They've done a really good job. Mike's granddaughter, Elizabeth Blackburn, has really made it a point to re-engage a fan base that was checked out the last couple of years. They finally debuted a Ring of Honor, something that fans had clamored for a very long time, and they got updated jerseys this year as well. And I think all of those things matter, and it matters with the perception of this franchise. And I think that they finally understand that. And I think that all of that has been key. And, during the draft process that you talked about, Joe Burrow actually mentioned it yesterday, saying that he just wanted to be involved in the process. He didn't really want them he didn't want to say, I want Jamar Chase, and then they just go get Jamar Chase, but he wanted to stay in the loop. And that's something that will be something to watch moving forward. We saw that conversation with Aaron Rodgers earlier this postseason, or this offseason, excuse me. And so I believe that all of those things we're seeing maybe a new day, so to speak, here in Cincinnati and kind of how they're operating.
Ben, your thoughts on the matchup with the Rams? I mean, obviously it could have been Packers instead, but the Rams are the draw. And, many people thought maybe Chiefs-Packers, but here we are with Bengals-Rams. What are your kind of early thoughts on that matchup and how the Bengals view how they stack up with L.A.?
Yeah, the big matchup's going to be in the trenches. It's going to be, can the Bengals protect Joe Burrow? Can they give him enough time in the pocket? Can the Bengals that pass protection against Aaron Donald and Von Miller hold up and give them, the ability to be aggressive and take some shots downfield? We saw that in the game against Kansas City after Burrow was sacked 9 times against Tennessee. The Bengals went with a conservative approach in hopes that their defense and their special teams would do enough to produce a victory. So we'll see if that can happen this time around. The Rams have been able to manufacture big wins and do some good things with their offense. It includes Matthew Stafford, a Highland Park guy, and they got Odell Beckham Jr. in the middle of the season as well, along with Cooper Kupp, who's the best receiver in the NFL right now. So, it's going to be a really intriguing matchup. But if the Bengals can get some semblance of an offense, I really think that Cincinnati has a very good chance to win. And, frankly, I'm going to end up picking them, in a game that I really didn't think I would.
Yeah, it's a great story. It's fun to see. It kind of reminds me of teams that have gotten hot at the end. I don't know about the Giants when they beat the Patriots, because that was a team led by their defense. Ben, one thing that's underrated is the fact Joe Burrow's getting a lot of attention, obviously Jamar Chase, but the Bengals hadn't been back to the Super Bowl since you started covering them either.
Yeah, no, but everyone says that, but they also forget that they were the worst team in the NFL my first season. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm any good luck.
All right, well, Ben, one of the things I got to know, because you are a proud Texan, especially when it comes to culinary pursuits. I know that they've got their what they call chili up there, but when you get off the plane, when you come back to Texas, you go right to a barbecue place. What do you do? I got to know, because I know it hits you at your soul that you can't get real brisket when you're in Ohio.
Yeah, no, not many places in the country have real brisket. I found that out when I went to Kansas City last weekend. First thing I do, because usually my parents are the ones picking me up when I go and see them, and there's a good Whataburger in Grapevine in my hometown, so I'll go over there. Usually get me whatever time of the day it is. It's morning or evening. I make my meal choice accordingly, and then we'll go to the house and spend some time together, and then hopefully get some brisket and catch up. It's funny, the last time I was getting some brisket, it was in South Lake, and happened to run into Riley Dodge and the South Lake Carroll head coach. I said, everyone keeps telling me you got a quarterback that's pretty good. He goes, yeah, he is. He's pretty good, and we'll see if he's going to be good for Texas now and Quinn Ewers after he transfers from Ohio State. So you never know who you're going to run into. I think we all like a lot of the same things food-wise in the state, but it's always a pleasure to get back, and hopefully I'll be able to get back here pretty soon.
Ben, last question. The protocol of the itinerary in the past, the team that was there would either arrive Sunday evening or sometime on Monday. Media and Radio Row has been pushed back a little bit towards middle of the week. What is the plan? What is the itinerary this year?
Yeah, right now the Bengals are scheduled to arrive at LAX on Tuesday. They'll do some virtual media availability at the beginning of the week and really only have one full in-person media availability at the end of the week. So, it's the way for the NFL. They've been very cautious, especially since the rise of Omicron and how contagious and disruptive it has been. I think everyone's trying to make sure that they're able to make everything happen on schedule and on time. So that is what we're looking at right now ahead of the Super Bowl week.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. Great to see you're a part of this. Thanks for your time. We appreciate you jumping on. I know it's busy as hell.
Yep. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you. Ben Baby, ESPN.com, covers the Bengals, and on their way next week, as he mentioned, arriving on Tuesday. Things have been pushed back a little bit deeper into the week, and has been that way since last year. There was a time when they would fly in on Sunday, both teams, and then Sunday, Monday, and now even later. In the media, Radio Row really this year was not till Wednesday, although they'll be set up and ready to go. I think most of the access on Radio Row really doesn't start till Wednesday. I believe that's when we got our credentials. That's what it said to us as well.
Yeah, so